morning.
Today's scripture is from the book of Mark, chapter 8, verses 27 through 38. Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Jesus and the disciples went on to the villages around Caesarea Philippi. On the way, Jesus asked them, "Who do people say I am?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist. Others say Elijah. And still others, one of the prophets." "But what about you?" he asked. "Who do you say I am?" Peter answered, "You are the Messiah." Jesus warned them not to tell anyone about him. He then began to teach by the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed and after 3 days rise again. He spoke plainly about this, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. "Get behind me, Satan," he said. "You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." Then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Humanity will be ashamed of them when Jesus comes in God's glory with the holy angels." May God add a blessing.
How you doing? All right. This week I was thinking about the scripture over and over and over again, and the thing that kept popping out to me is the question that Jesus asked, "Who do people say that I am? Who do people say that I am?" I think, and maybe I believe, that Jesus could care less about what people thought about him. But he used this question to lead the discussion for the benefit of the disciples. Because, he knows the struggles. Wow. He knows the struggles that they face in their faith. And he knows the struggles that we face in our faith. Say that fast 3 times. He knows the way that he's laying out for them is really something new. And it's a new box, getting out of their box, if you will. It's a new frame. It's a new day. What's going on?
Nobody done this.
It's on.
Oh.
We didn't want to miss a word.
Should be good.
It's a new day. It's a new day. Because he's not teaching the same old, right? It's something different. And it challenges the tradition of their faith. And I often wonder if sometimes our tradition doesn't need to be challenged as well. Because we get set in, well, this is the way we go to church. This is the way we go. Yeah. And so that tradition, and I always tell people, if you come to Valley, this is not the church that you grew up in. Praise the Lord. Right? This is a different place where God is still speaking. I hope.
Yep.
And so this question is of course, answered. The disciples answer him and they say, well, some people, I love that, some people say that you're John the Baptist. Some people say you're Elijah. Some people say that you are a prophet. And so I just love this poignant moment when Jesus says, well, who do you say that I am? It's not about some people. It's about who do you say that I am? It's calling them to a deeper understanding and a deeper place, a deeper spiritual truth, a deeper place of believing who Jesus is. Who do you say? Now, I wonder if this could be a test for everyone, for our belief system and who it is that we follow. There's a handout, by the way, in your bulletins. If you didn't get one, make sure.
We ran out.
Who and what is it that you believe? Is your belief strong enough to overcome the challenge and the chaos of this world? Who do you believe? And what do you believe about Jesus and or God? You know, bad things happen every day. And a lot of times people blame God. We've never done that, right? Sometimes people blame God for the bad things will happen. But it doesn't mean that God's silent. It doesn't mean that God's not there. It doesn't mean that there's this orchestra of hope for your life. And I want to share with you today a powerful video. And so if we're ready, are we ready?
I may always be known.
Yeah. It's powerful in that she decided that she wasn't going to be defined by something that happened to her. And I wonder if that happens to us, if we live beyond those moments of what has happened to us. And I think sometimes we get stuck in instead of being intentional about having a wonderful life, we get stuck in the stuff of what's happening. Yeah. And so we have an opportunity, saints, to live beyond the moment. And you see, some people may see you as something that you're not. Right? Some people may see you as something that you're not. And yet, I'm reminded of, even in my own life, is that, you know, sometimes in my past, people say, well, you were this or you are that. And I have to remind them, I am not defined by that one incident or that one issue. I'm an overcomer. And I remind you, I hope I remind you enough that you too are overcomers, that you are, I'm telling you, you are an overcomer. You can overcome and you can do great things because Christ is in you.
Yes, right.
Because Christ is in you. And you don't have to be defined by something of your past. I remind us too that even Peter, when they were in the moment, Peter answered Jesus and he wouldn't even get to the moment without having to say, you know, something about Jesus. Come here, I want to talk to you. He wanted to redefine the moment. Because he didn't like what Jesus was telling him. He didn't like the fact that Jesus was telling him about he's going to die and he's going to suffer and all of this. Peter wanted what he wanted, and his flesh got in the way. Well, Jesus is teaching about spiritual things and eternal things. Peter was in the flesh. Yeah. And reminding them, Jesus reminding them and us that we have to pick up our lives every day. We have to pick up our cross, it says. Pick up the cross and follow. And sometimes we believe only after something serious has happened. Death or denial. Right? Sometimes it shakes us to the core. And like Peter will believe after the resurrection. But saints, it might be too late when the second coming comes. You know, it might be too late. I don't know. I'm not God. I'm reminded too that Matthew 26:41 says, watch and pray so that you don't fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Yeah. You see, God's spirit is willing to come alongside of us. And our flesh often gets in the way, yeah? Our flesh often gets in the way because our flesh and the earth tell us something while the Spirit of God's telling us something totally different. God's Spirit is always with us. So the question is, what are you going to believe? Are you going to believe the raging war of the flesh, or are you going to believe the peace of the Spirit? I'd like to say we'd like to believe the peace of the Spirit, but oftentimes we act out in the flesh. Yeah? So, the disciples of that day knew Jesus, you know. They gave up everything. When Jesus called them, they gave up everything. They gave up their livelihood, they gave up everything to follow Jesus. They packed up everything, and they picked up their lives, and they followed Him, even though they didn't totally understand at the time. And sometimes people today have a hard time giving up anything, whether it's a moment in time, or an offering, or a hug, or something. You know, we have a hard time giving up something. But I think the thing about it is that Jesus isn't asking the world about all these things. Jesus is asking you. Who do you say that I am? We each have the opportunity to pick up our cross and follow and believe in something greater than our lives. Who do you say that Jesus is in your life? I believe that God is always with us. I believe that we are called and created for something good. We are created to live our lives out for the sake of the cross. And know, you know, that even though the world might not know who God and Jesus is, you know. And it's our responsibility to share that good news with others. It's our responsibility. Because there's a gamut of ideas of who the world thinks Jesus is. But you see, Jesus isn't asking the world, Jesus is asking you. Who do you say that I am? What do you believe? What do you believe? It's a personal gospel, if you will. It's a personal message for you. See, Christ isn't defined in some piece of jewelry or a work of art or someone else's definition of their idea of who God might be. Right? It's a personal relationship. And you have a choice. Just as Elizabeth Smart had a choice to live beyond the moment of the definitions of what tried to define her. Because you know what? She could have lived in that victim mentality for the rest of her life. But she made a choice.
Here's some information about...
All right. I want to know what the information is about. God's sharing some information here. And I want to challenge you, whatever you're facing. You can be a victim or you can be an overcomer. The choice is up to you. The choice is up to you. Who do you believe? What do you believe? Who do you believe God is? Who do you believe Christ is in your life? The spirit is willing, but the flesh may be weak. That's when God comes alongside and says, here I am, my child. I'm going to lift you up. I'm going to help you overcome. I'm going to help you to see yourself in a new light. I'm going to help you to be the one that I created in my image. Not in the image of someone who's going to put you down and stuff you down and squash your belief. But I'm going to lift you up on the wings of eagles. That you'll be running and not be weary. Woo! And you will not faint in the life that I have called you to live. And so if you're being a victim today, I want to encourage you to be an overcomer instead. I want to encourage you to say, I believe, help my unbelief. I believe that God is able to help me. And you know what? You will find that the God of all creation walks with you and is with you on this journey called life. I believe. Amen? Amen.